All right, welcome to our OnShape assignment number 2. Today we're going to make this cross piece, which is also the top piece of a 3D printed part that I have, and I will show you in Teams. But what we're going to do is create the top, then we'll make the opposite for the bottom in assignment number 3, and then assignment number 4 will show you how to assemble them together and make your orthographic drawing. So first thing we need to do, obviously we can rotate this part and view a couple things. So that's what the front view is going to look like, right? The right side, the left side, and of course the top. Okay, so let's get started. So first thing we're going to do is go to create a new document, and we're going to call it top. And this is our default workspace again. So we will create a sketch on the front plane. So we want to create the front as if it is the cross portion. And you won't be able to tell that it has that piece sticking up, but you will be able to tell the general shape, right? It tells the most information about the shape. So you click on the front workspace plane, and I'm going to rearrange so that I'm looking directly towards the front. And the first thing I need to do is create a rectangle. So I'm going to create the vertical portion of the cross first. So I'm going to move to my origin point, click on the origin, and drag up to the right. From there, right, I'm just going to click, and it'll let me change the dimensions of my rectangle. So the first dimension, I'm going to make it 3/4 of an inch wide. So you can type 3/4 and it'll do the calculations for you, but you can also make it the decimal, which is 0.75. So however you want to do it, if you do 3/4, you'll see that it automatically converts it to 0.75. All right, so next is I have this dimension, and I'm going to make it as if it's 3 3/4 inch blocks tall, which is 0.75 plus 0.75, that's 1.5, plus 0.75 is 2.25. So I'm going to make it 2.25 inches tall. So I have the vertical portion. Now I need to make the horizontal portion. I can do that by trying to figure out how to center it right off the bat. So here's our center points, right? Or I can use the dimension tool to fix it later, and that's much faster, is to just use the dimension tool instead of trying to use those center points, because we need the center point of this horizontal rectangle to match up to those. Right? So what I mean by that is I'm going to purposely make this off the center and then move it into the center to show you. But you can take a guess. You can try and make your rectangle from here to here and make it work. So I'll just make it from here to here. Right? So I'm going to click. So I need to make my length first. It's the same length as the height of the first one, right? So 2.25, enter. And it's the same width as that vertical rectangle as well, which is 0.75. Okay, so I do have a cross, but it's not centered up, right? So what I have to do is use the dimension tool, which is right up here, dimension. You can also hit D on your keyboard to quickly get to that tool. And the way that the dimension tool works is if I click on any line, so if I click on this line and I move it over to the side, I'm not holding the mouse button down, I just clicked once, right? It'll tell me how big that line is. It also works by selecting any of these points to another point, right? Or any of these lines to another line. So I'm going to click on this line and move up, and it tells me that that rectangle is 2.25 long. We know that, we just drew it. But I'm going to click on this line as well, and now it's going to tell me the distance between those two lines. So I need to move this up so that that distance is only 0.75 or 3/4 of an inch. So I'm going to change that to 0.75, and it'll pull that up. So very good, we got this to center up, so that means that the distance from here to here is 0.75, and the distance from here to here is also 0.75. Right? And you don't need to include that, that's just extra information. We know that because this is 2.25 tall, this is 0.75 wide, and then it's centered from here to here. Okay? So now we need to shift this horizontal rectangle over so that it's even with the center point of this vertical rectangle. So to do that, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to select, you can do this side or this side, doesn't matter. I'm going to select, we'll do this one. I'm going to select this line and the distance to this line, right? And I'm just moving this up out of the way so we can read it. You can really click it anywhere. It's good practice to bring it up and out, but I'm going to set this to 0.75. And that'll shift everything over so that I have a perfect cross. Right? It's even all the way around. All right? So now what I want to do is, I don't want you to do this, I just want to show you. If I end my sketch and I extrude this out, I do have a cross here. If I extrude this out, it creates the extrusions in separate boxes. And we don't want that. We want our extrusions to be the entire, we want it to be the entire shape. So to do that, we need to create this all into one shape. We need to find, so I have to zoom out a little bit. I'm zoomed in from teaching on Teams, but we need to find the trim tool, which is the keyboard shortcut M. So if you just hit M on your keyboard, it'll bring you the scissors. And the scissors detect the edges of our shape. So if we use the trim tool on these extra lines in the center, it'll get rid of them. So if I click here, it got rid of that line. If I click here, it'll get rid of that line, and so on. Right? So I'm just going to click on those 4 lines, and now this is all one shape instead of 2 different rectangles. Right? So if I move over here, you'll see. Now it's pulling this line. This one looks like it's still there because that's the dimension line going up. If I got rid of that dimension, that would go away like that. Right? So that's how I use that to center up my rectangles, but that's why it's running across. Same thing here. That's the dimension line running across. You can see highlighted. All right. So now whenever I hit the extrude, right? So Shift E, extrude. Whenever I click my shape, it's going to bring it out. Right? All as one. So now I'm going to change my depth here. I don't want it to be 1 inch. I want it to be 0.75. So it's 3/4 of an inch deep. Then I'll hit the check. So it made the adjustment. So I have the first portion of my cross here. Now I need to create the little piece that sticks out that'll go into the bottom piece. Right? So anytime we need to add, we need to create a new sketch. So I'm going to go up to Sketch. And instead of picking a work plane outside here, I'm going to click this front face, the cross itself. I want to draw on this object. So I'm going to zoom in, and I'm going to rotate my view cube. So I'm now drawing on this cross. I'm going to use the rectangle tool to draw from this corner, and you'll see it'll try to snap to that corner. And I'm going to move down to this corner. It should say 0.75 by 0.75. If it doesn't, you have some sort of dimension issue and you might have to go back and fix it. You can type 0.75 by 0.75, but if it's hanging off any of your rectangles, you can't move on. Right? So make sure if you go from this point to this point, it's 0.75. And that's it for that sketch. All I had to do was draw that one square. And then I'm going to extrude it and move my view cube out 0.75 in depth. And then I'll hit the check. Right? And now I have a completed shape. The last thing we want to do is change the color of this object. So to change the color, instead of it being this boring blue, over on the right hand side you have those three circles. That's the appearance panel. You can click, double click, and it'll let you change it to whatever you like. So my piece that I'm showing you in Teams is a pinkish, so I'll make mine a pinkish purple color. Right? You can make it any color you want, but ideally you're going to make your top one color and your bottom a different color so that you can see the pieces whenever we assemble them. All right, so hit the check, get rid of my appearance panel. And the last thing I'm going to do is over here, if you don't want to see those planes, you can get rid of them at any time. So whenever you hover it, it shows you a little eyeball, and if you click that eyeball, it gets rid of those planes. Right? So since we're done with this sketch, we want to get rid of those planes. And that's it. That's how you draw the top. Right? So I can rotate it to show you all the different views. All right, and the last thing you're going to do is hit that share button, come up to Teams, find your class, change Can Edit to Can View, and hit share.